Hi y'all, welcome to Corralitos. This is the second part of the video series. A little garden walk, and we're going to talk about hybrids, and we're going to talk about organic farming practices and pest control. You can see I'm out by the road in the front of my house. These beds here, I don't really prefer to grow food right by the road for lots of different reasons. So this is a pollinator garden. And remember, you need pollinators to help plants become fertile, make fruit. So bees generally take the male sex cells to the female ovaries. They fertilize that in the process while they're getting nectar. And so this is to promote healthy pollinators. Also makes a great cut flower garden too. We always have fresh flowers and give them to our friends and things. All right, let's start our tour. This right here is an avocado tree. It actually doesn't get pollinated by insects. It's a wind pollinator. So I have another avocado back by the pumpkin patch, so the wind carries the pollen from tree to tree, and that's how these get fertilized. I know in Miss Stewart's video she talked a lot about the difference between fruit and vegetables. This is asparagus, considered a vegetable, because you're not eating what's come from the flower, you're actually eating what's going to become the flower. So if you take a look, an asparagus there is a bud that you basically eat, makes your pea smell good, but eventually it will open up and form the flowers, which you can see has started to happen to some of these. So that's how it'll reproduce. So again, you're not eating so much the fruit, but you're eating the flower itself before it flowers. So I want to talk a little bit about hybridization. So hybridization is basically when things cross-pollinate. For example, this is a green globe artichoke right here, and this is what they're supposed to look like. It'll get a little bit bigger. It's a classic artichoke. They grow down by Moss Landing, does well in this area. Last year I let some of my artichokes open up as flowers and let them get pollinated, and basically collected the seed to plant more. Unfortunately, there was some pollen from some other variety of artichoke, and this is what some of my plants did this year. So artichokes are a thistle, and you'll see that is not quite what I'm looking for. This thistle looks, it's been hybridized with some other variety of artichoke or plant, and that doesn't look too edible or tasty. I'm gonna go ahead and let these flower this year. I'll let them open up, but then I'm going to yank this out because I bought some new seed that's not hybridized. And so again, when pollen from another plant fertilizes a flower, the seeds they produce are a combination of those two plants. And sometimes you get some genes you don't want. Kind of like the super weeds. When they were sprayed with Roundup, the ones that survived were resistant to Roundup. They pollinated other weeds that survived. And again, you get hybrids of weeds which become tolerant to that herbicide. All right, a little bit more talk about hybrids. Classic hybrids that are coming out all the time is where people try to manipulate plant genes. This is an example of a new hybrid seed that I got last year. It's called a Sugar Rush Peach. It's a pepper, and so it is actually a long orange pepper. It's got a citrusy taste and smells really good. Of course, you've probably heard of some of the really hot peppers that plant breeders are developing. I think, you know, the Trinidad Scorpion, Carolina Reaper, some of these super extremely hot peppers, and those are where plant geneticists keep selecting for hotter and hotter genes in the peppers, and they find the hottest pepper plants they can, cross-pollinate, and try to keep increasing those Scoville units and making those plants hotter and hotter. I did not grow super hot peppers this year. I grew some ghost chilies a few years ago, and they were so hot I didn't know what to do with them. These are my hot peppers, which are purging water as we speak. They're still a little bit small. We've got some habaneros, Scotch bonnets, the Jamaican peppers, but that's about as hot as I need to get. That can burn my face off without having to go to the top. Anyway, that's a little bit more on hybrids. All right, that right there is conventional fertilizer, which I try not to use too much. That is basically nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium in pretty high concentrations. I don't want to touch this because if I touch this stuff, my hands are going to start to burn. I'm going to have to wash it off real quick because again, it's pretty toxic. And when they manufacture this, heavy metals build up in it, and those heavy metals ultimately end up in your soil and potentially in your food. So organic farmers tend to use other things you learned about earlier in organic farming. This right here is steer manure. You can buy this at the Home Depot for $1.50 for this bag. I just screen it over a wheelbarrow, mix it into my beds when I amend them before I plant my next crop. This over here is chicken manure. It's also very high in nitrogen. You got to be careful you mix too much of this in. It can actually burn your plants. You can get some nitrogen burns. Other things you can do is the cover crops. In the pumpkin patch back there in the winter, some seasons we'll plant fava beans. Those fava beans will fix nitrogen from the atmosphere, put it in the soil, and then make it available later for my pumpkins and squash to access from the soil. So again, those are good amendments. Another free one you can get a lot of times is composted horse manure. I brought that in by the truckload to add organic matter to that pumpkin patch, and that's also helped build that soil because I have really clay soil here, so I have to add organic matter all the time to just keep improving it, and it's gotten a lot better. So those are a few things you can do kind of along the lines of organic farming, which are probably a little healthier for your soils and healthier for you. All right, let's talk a little bit about some of the common garden pests and what you can do that is more along the lines of organic pest control. First thing I'm going to show you is this product. It's called diatomaceous earth. It's a natural product that's actually the skeletons of diatoms, which are very small organisms in the ocean. It's a very fine powder. You don't want to breathe this stuff. You can sprinkle that on a plant. Sometimes blower and atomize it into my greenhouse because these are very sharp little skeletons, not to us, but these will cut soft body insects, ants. It'll actually pull the water right out of their bodies. So it's an effective insect control, and it's inert. It's non-toxic. It's just basically marine skeletons. Again, classic snail bait for slugs and snails. Big problem, eating all kinds of stuff out here. And again, the active ingredient is the sodium ferric, and that's basically iron and salt. So that takes care of them. Insects go, aphids, huge problem. Whiteflies, which I'll show you how to treat in a minute on the catnip that's infested. What we use for that is called insecticidal soap. You could actually use Dawn dish soap too, works just as well. You put about a tablespoon of this in a spray bottle, fill it with water, and then spray the infected plant. It basically suffocates the insects. And so it's really just a soap. So you could probably take a shower with this if you needed to. Another really common one for fruit trees is we use the spray oil. And what it is it's a mineral oil. And when you spray that on in the dormant season for fruit trees, it keeps the aphids from hiding out in the buds. And as soon as the tree starts to push a leaf, aphids will come out. They'll start sucking the juices out of the leaves will curl around them, and they're really hard to get. I'll show you a tree that's infested with that because we got so busy before this whole hunk thing, we missed a couple spray windows, and I've got a couple plum trees that are paying the price. This is also another product called Defense. I've got a fungicide here, and where did I do? I also have what's called neem oil. And so all these ingredients contain neem oil, which is an oil from the neem tree. It's really toxic to insects. It also kills fungus and mildew. So that's another natural product that's derived from a plant that you can put on plants to help take care of your pests. So these are all kind of more organic pest controls as opposed to conventional, and they're not toxic. Some of the things you can use in your garden, and farmers in organic gardening use this stuff too. I have a few friends that are organic gardeners. They just buy it in larger quantities and use it in their fields. All right, here's another example of some pests. A couple things going on. This is catnip. Grows pretty easily. What you'll notice is there's some holes in it, and that's probably from slugs and snails. Very common problem, especially when we're getting rain. When I tap this, you should see a bunch of little tiny white flies come off it too. Oh, one. Anyway, I don't know if you saw them flying around there. To look real close. There's some right here on this leaf here. There goes one. This little guy too. So those are two problems I've got going on, and I'm going to show you how we deal with that organically. Again, in commercial ag, they have some chemicals that are synthetic that you can spray on, but we can do it without that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my bottle here, and I've mixed up some insecticidal soap. It's basically, I could probably take a shower with this stuff instead if I want to. I've used dish soap before too. It works pretty good. Someone gave me some professional insecticidal soap, so let's use it. And so I'm just going to douse that plant. That does is that basically suffocates those insects because they can't breathe when they get all clogged up with soap. And hopefully our white fly problem will go away. All right, I'm feeling pretty good about that. All right, now we're out in the pumpkin patch. My neighbor gave me one of his prized giant pumpkin starts, and you can see the snails and slugs are really doing damage on that. So one organic solution is using a snail bait. And again, basically this is the iron in this. Basically gets the snails to stop feeding. It's considered non-toxic. If your pets eat it, they're fine. I encourage them not to, but what I can do is I can start and sprinkle that around the plant. If the snails come in contact with that at all, then basically they're done for. But what I like to use instead is a spreader. So then I can get it all over my property, so there's a better chance those snails are gonna come in contact with some of that snail bait. Remember, snails are herbivores. They wanna eat your plants, and I can see some different damage out here. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit that up pretty good. I'll probably hit the raspberries in the back too there. All right, we're gonna go right on down these beds. I've got snails active in my potatoes. Trying to work over the peppers. Shoot, we might as well put a little bit in the cucumber bed too while we're at it. All right, so that's kind of the method to get snail bait out there in a uniform pattern without using more than you need to. All right, this is our little plum cut tree. It's called a Dapple Supreme. Speaking of another hybrid where they've crossed two different fruits to make a new hybridized fruit tree. What we're seeing here is that we've got this leaf curl happening. And what happened there is we got busy, as we always do during the winter, and misspraying this with some of that mineral oil. So aphids are curled up inside these leaves, and a lot of them even moved on already. I read about this. There's some conventional stuff you can do that you can put a systemic in it. It'll go through the whole tree and kill them off. But that's putting chemicals in my food, so I'm gonna omit that. Supposedly it doesn't harm the fruit, so we'll just have to deal with the not so good looking Dapple Supreme here, but it is making fruit, so as long as the dogs don't get it all, we'll get to try them out. All right, y'all, sorry that video was so long. You obviously found something I'm kind of passionate about. Hope you're all safe and healthy. Quick reminder, if you've turned in late work after it's been graded and you have that MIS in the grade book, email me with exactly what you turned in, the name of the lesson, so I can go find it and get in the grades. This is a good chance to bump your grades up, but I'm only taking that for like another week. All right, summer's almost here. You almost made it. Hopefully we'll be back at school soon. Did I really just say that? Anyway, take care. Miss you guys. Dragon's been out collecting raspberries. And so there he's got a whole bowl. And this is one of my other big garden pests. Actually, two of them. That one, the digger. And this one actually goes and grazes on fruit. He's been eating blueberries. He's been eating my strawberries. He's been eating apples off the tree that aren't even ripe yet. So again, we're losing a lot of produce to these two big garden pests. And I've had to fence all my beds to try to keep them out of there. There's some tomatoes. There's the potatoes. All fenced off to try to keep the dogs from digging. All right, y'all, I'm standing at the back door to the house. I like to call this our kitchen garden. I dare not say the H word. My wife hates that. Let's gonna give you the whirlwind tour. It's gonna be fast and furious. I'm gonna be running around because I don't want to bore you. All right, we're starting with the kiwis. These are kiwi vines above our back patio. Actually keeps the place cool in the summer and produces kiwis. We've got some lemon trees here. This is a pepper bed, just planted, hot peppers and mild peppers. Another bed with potatoes, chard, beets, spinach, carrots are in there. There should be some lettuce popping up soon and oregano. This one has, let's see, celery, cabbage, more tomatoes, and I got a marigold in there. And there's some artichokes, loquat tree that makes no fruit, that's gotta go. Right over here, there's a couple of blueberry bushes you can't see, they need to be weeded. Right, a little zone, some more blueberries, baby blueberry, more blueberries. There's a plum tree, there's our Dapple Supreme plum, pear tree. This is a pomegranate, a lime, wife's trimming, peach, a fig, persimmon right there, dragon fruit just outside the greenhouse. My dog planted all of these artichokes when she knocked over my starts digging for gophers. Darn it, hybrids. There's the pumpkin patch, giant pumpkin. There's a lemon, another lime. That is a tangerine. I'm gonna zoom you down through the raspberries and blackberries. Starting to make fruit. Exciting. Anyway, oh, there's another avocado right there. And I'll show you the rest in a second. But wait, there's more. This is a big tomato bed. More celery, onions, cabbage, some beets, wild blackberries. Oh man, those are thorny and crazy. Oh, there's another fig right there. Another apple tree. This is the bed full of potatoes, and beans will be running up out of there too. More tomatoes, peppers. This is another plum tree. Strawberries, beans, and oh yeah, cucumbers, and then there's some volunteer sunflowers. This is the asparagus bed. It's all asparagus. It's all coming up right now. And there's that avocado one more time. That was your whirlwind tour. Yeah, it's a little crazy out here.